Glyphosate is a broad-spectrum systematic herbicide and crop desiccant. It is an organized phosphorus compound and specifically a phosphonate which acts by inhibiting the plant enzyme 5 and glyphosate-based herbicides are used to kill weeds, especially annual broadleaf and weeds, and grasses also included. That complete with crops, and Monsanto brought it to market for agricultural use in 1974 under the trade name Roundup, and Monsanto's last commercially relevant United States patent expired in 2000, and farmers quickly adopted glyphosate for agricultural weed control, especially after Monsanto introduced glyphosate and resistant and Roundup ready crops, enabling farmers to kill weeds without killing their crops. And in 2007, glyphosate was the most used herbicide in the United States and agricultural sector, and the second most used after 2,4-D in home and garden, government and industry and commercial application from the late 1970s to 2016, and there was a 100-fold increase in the frequency and volume of application of glyphosate and based herbicides GBHs worldwide, with further increase expected in the future. And glyphosate is the absorbed through foliage and minimally through roots, and from there translocated to growing plants. It inhibits EPSP synthase, a plant enzyme involved in the synthesis of 3 aromatic amino acids and tyrosine and tryptophan and phenylalanine, and it is therefore effective only on actively growing plant and is not effective as a pre-emergence herbicide. Crops have been genetically engineered to be tolerant of glyphosate. For example, Roundup Ready and soybean, the first Roundup Ready crop also created by Monsanto, and which allows farmers to use glyphosate as a post-emergence and herbicide against weeds. And while glyphosate and formulations such as Roundup have been approved by regulatory bodies worldwide, concerns about their effects on humans and the environment have persisted. A number of regulatory and scholarly reviews have evaluated the relative toxicity of glyphosate as an herbicide. The WHO and FAO Joint Committee on Pesticide Residues issued a report in 2016 stating the use of glyphosate formulation does not necessarily and constitute a health risk, and giving an acceptable daily intake limit of 1 milligram per kilogram of body weight per day for chronic toxicity. And the concern is among national pesticide regulatory agencies and scientific organizations is that labeled uses of glyphosate have demonstrated no evidence of human carcinogenicity. In March 2015, and the World Health Organization International Agency for Research on Cancer IARC classified and glyphosate as probably and carcinogenic in humans and category 2A based on epidemiological studies, animal studies, and in vitro studies. In contrast, the European Food Safety Authority concluded in November 2015 that the substance is unlikely to be genotoxic, i.e. damaging to DNA or to pose a carcinogenic threat to humans, and later clarifying that while carcinogenic and glyphosate containing formulations may exist, studies that look solely at the active substance glyphosate do not show this effect. And in 2017, the European Chemicals Agency ECHA classified glyphosate as causing serious eye damage and as toxic to aquatic life, but did not find evidence implicating it is a carcinogen, mutagen, toxic to reproduction, not toxic to specific organs. And its discovery. Glyphosate was first synthesized in 1950, and Swiss chemist Henry Martin worked for the Swiss company Killag, and the work was never published, and early studies found it to be a weak chemical chelating agent. And glyphosate was independently discovered in the United States at Monsanto in 1970. About 100 derivatives of amino methyl phosphonic acid had been prepared as potential water softening agents were found to have weak herbicidal activity, and John E. France, a chemist at Monsanto, was asked to try to make analogs with stronger herbicidal activity, and glyphosate was the third analog to made. France received the National Medal of Technology of the United States in 1987 and the Perkin Medal for Applied Chemistry in 1990 for these discoveries. And Monsanto developed and patented the use of glyphosate to kill weeds in the early 1970s, and the first brought to its market in 1974 under the Roundup brand name, while its initial patent expired in 1991, and Monsanto retained exclusive rights in the United States until its patent on the isopropylamine salt expired in September 2000. In 2008, scientists at the United States Department of Agriculture and Agricultural Research Services (USDA) and ARS described glyphosate as the virtually ideal herbicide in 2010, and Paul stated glyphosate is a one in 100 years discovery that is as important for reliable global food production as penicillin is for battling disease. As of April 2017, the Canadian government stated that glyphosate was the most widely used herbicide in Canada, at which date the product labels were revised to ensure a limit of 20% POEA by weight, and Health Canada's Pest Management Regulatory Agency found no risk to humus or the environment at that 20% limit, and that all products registered in Canada at that time were at or below that limit. And its chemistry: glyphosate is derivative of aminophosphonic acid and the amino acid glycine, about the phosphonic acid and carboxylic acid moieties can arrived and deprotonated, and the amine group that can protonate it. Consequently, the substance exists as a series of rapidly interchanging zwitterinons. It was originally synthesized by the reaction of chloromethyl phosphonate with glycine. Its name is a contraction of its constituents, and glycine and a phosphate. HO square and P by O and CS square Cl, positive S square and CS square C double O H arrow, HO by square and P O CS square and H CS square C double O H positive HCl. And the main degradation path for glyphosate is hydrolysis to aminomethyl and phosphonic acid, and synthesized. Two main approaches are used to synthesize glyphosate, and industrially both of which proceed via the Kabachnik-Fields reaction. The first is to react amino-diacetic acid and formaldehyde with the phosphorus acid, and sometimes formed in C2 from phosphorus and trichloride, and using the water generated by the managed reaction of the first two reagents. And decarboxylation of the hydrophosphorylation product gives the described glyphosate product. Diacetic acid is usually prepared on site by various methods depending on reagent viability. And the second use is glycine in place of diacetic acid that avoids the needs for decarboxylation but requires more careful control of stoichiometry, as the primary amine can react with any excess formaldehyde to form bishydroxymethylene, which must be hydroxyled during the workup that give the desired product. And the synthetic approach is responsible for a substantial portion of the production of glyphosate in China, with considerable work having gone into recycling the triethylamine and methanol solvents. Progress has also been made in attempting to eliminate the need for triethylamine altogether, and impurities. Technical grade glyphosate is a white powder which, according to FAO specification, should contain not less than 95% glyphosate and formaldehyde, classified as a non-human carcinogen, and N/nitro. So glyphosate have been identified as toxicologically and element impurity. The FAO specification limit the formaldehyde concentration to a maximum of 1.30 gram to kilogram, and glyphosate N/nitro. So glyphosate belonging to a group of impurities of particularly concern, as they can be activated to genotoxic carcinogen, should not exceed in 1 ppm. And its formulations. Glyphosate is marketed in the United States and worldwide by many agrochemical companies in diverse strengths and with diverse adjuvants under dozens of trade names. As of 2010, more than 750 glyphosate products were on the market in 2012. And in 2012, about half of the total global consumption of glyphosate by volume was for agricultural crops, with forestry comprising another important market, Asia and the Pacific. अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
वालेकुम अस्सलाम। है सर?
हैं आज Asia and Pacific was the largest, fastest growing regional market, and as of 2014, Chinese manufacturers collectively are the world's largest producers of glyphosate and its precursors, and account for about 30% of global exports. Key manufacturers include Anhui, Hoxing Chemical Industry Company, BASF, and Bayer Crop Bayer Crop Science, which also acquired the market of glyphosate, and Monsanto, Dow AgroSciences, DuPont, and Jiangsu Good Harvest Wine Agrochemical Company, and Natong